Kenya Airways is counting on the Kenyan government to settle $250 million in liabilities racked up during the coronavirus groundings. This as the airline gears up to around 2/3 of normal capacity next year. Discussions on the matter are underway with the National Treasury, which has previously guaranteed about $750 million of Kenyan Airways debt. But somehow it's not enough. Still in Kenya, Kenya is exploring the use of a central bank digital currency. This according to the country's central bank governor, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, speaking on the sidelines of the Afro-Asia FinTech Festival, which was held virtually. The Kenyan central bank governor confirmed the plans for a central bank digital currency, saying that CBDCs can enhance the efficiency of cross-border payments as long as countries work together. From Kenya to Egypt, Egypt's Ministry of Finance has issued a report on the most important indicators of the Egyptian economy. According to the scorecard, the Egyptian economic reform program has proven to be a success, bolstered by testimony of major international institutions. According to the report, the results of the economic reform program appeared during the coronavirus pandemic, because of which the major economies of the world were affected. But thanks to the economic reform program, the state was able to support affected sectors and maintain positive growth rates. Well, joining us to discuss that, plus more, CEO of Alpha African Advisory, Sanyade Okoli. You're welcome. Good to see you again.
Hi, Reuters.
Great. So I guess we can start off with you've talked about reforms in the past. We've talked about reforms. What do you make of the scorecard from Egypt?
I have to admit, pretty impressive.
Yeah?
As I was looking at the 5-year trend, I think what struck me most was the fact that in 2020, it continued to improve on key metrics, such as inflation decreased, unemployment decreased. It's almost as if Egypt didn't get the memo that 2020 was a crisis year,
Yes.
and you weren't allowed to improve key economic metrics. So I think well done to them. These are reforms that started in 2016. And it's quite interesting. I was reading an IMF report on it, and some of the measures they took were removing fuel subsidies.
Yeah. Indeed.
Floating the foreign exchange rate.
Correct.
And it's yielded fruit.
Right.
Of course, the first, if you look at 2017 numbers, there was that pain. Inflation did spike. It was painful for
Spiked at 30%.
Yeah. So it was painful for the Egyptians.
Yes.
But, those difficult decisions implemented then enabled them to ride the 2020 storm much better than most other economies.
Speaking of riding a storm, how patient should the polity be when it comes to reforms? Well, what's the time frame? Is it 5 years to allow reforms to kick in, or 10 years? Well, how do you see it?
I definitely don't see 10 years, because the reality is, in environments where there are higher levels of uncertainty, people are more short-termist, understandably. So in reality, within a few years, they expect to see some early fruits, because otherwise they'd be undergoing a whole lot of pain, but not seeing why they're going through that pain. So you need, certainly within 5 years, there should be a marked difference. And fortunately, in Egypt's case, that is very much what happened.
Speaking of fruits, I want to take a look at the top 5 destinations for foreign direct investment. That was a pandemic year, 2020. But Egypt, I think Egypt topped the list, followed by, there it is. Republic of Congo, 4 billion, South Africa, 3.1, then Nigeria and Ethiopia tied. Is this the fruit of reforms? What do you make of it?
Finally, when you were talking about patience, I think another key thing to remember is trust, and the extent to which not only do they have the trust of their population, but they also gain the trust of foreign investors, either the multinational organizations or FDI investors, et cetera, et cetera. So absolutely, it's a more stable, less risky environment. And one of the conversations we've had is this whole point about competition for capital.
Right.
There's a global competition for capital, and capital will flow to where capital thinks from a risk-adjusted basis it will generate the highest returns.
Great. I want to move to Kenya. Every time we talk aviation, it's usually about South Africa, but now it's Kenya. Actually, no, sorry. Before we get to airlines, I want to first start with digital currencies. What do you make of Kenya I guess, wanting to explore a digital currency. Central bank back to digital currency.
Exploring is never a bad thing, right?
Yeah, true.
So the question has to be why they would be doing that. As you know, in Nigeria, we launched the digital currency a few weeks ago. In such countries, Kenya being one of them, high level of participation by their population in cryptocurrencies and bitcoins, etc. So they already know that their people are trading in digital currencies. But the perspective is it's not regulated, and so they would like to, shall we say, capture a larger share of the digital wallet. Digital currencies are also meant to help with financial inclusion. And in some of these countries where you don't necessarily have the infrastructure in all the rural areas to bring the unbanked population in, it would be helpful. Questions, though, are the cost of doing it, the supporting legal and regulatory framework to ensure that it achieves what it needs to achieve. So let's see. Time will tell.
Is this the future? Is this the future of money? Where it's
yes.
You know, it's electronic.
I think it's the future of so many things.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's bottom line. I think it's yesterday's future because it is what we see today.
Right, exactly. Okay, now, aviation. I don't know. I think Kenya again. This time, Kenya Airways seeking 250 billion. No, million. 250 million from the government. What do you make of that development?
Well, reading one of the Kenya Airways investor presentations, one of the things they made clear was that they were very much in good company, in that most of the other African airlines have sought and secured one form of government bailout or the other. So they are in good company. It's not at all surprising. But what's interesting is in 2019, we had actually started experiencing a slight decline in the growth of global aviation. And as they put it, the coronavirus crisis was the biggest crisis to affect aviation since the Second World War.
Wow, that is.
And when you look at the charts, it just plummeted. 9/11, the 2008-9 crisis. It just flattened and continued to grow. COVID just brought it down. And if they've had to ground, their fleet completely for a period of time and reduced capacity more recently, it's not at all surprising. And we've also got to bear in mind that they were already loss-making.
Before COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as with, again, so many airlines, they are in good company.
Well, speaking of good company, and if you can help, because again, we've talked about this before with South Africa, well, what is your take on states? You think it's a viable thing, or it should be left to the private sector?
In general,
yeah.
I do not personally believe that governments are the best allocators of commercial capital. They lack the efficiency and the drive and the commercial nous to be able to efficiently allocate commercial capital. And something like an airline, you need super efficiency to ensure that you can run profitably. And you're not going to get that from government.
Do you think with some of these, I don't know, Spirit Airlines, Southwest, these are American airlines, though I'm using, I'm sorry, not the pun, there is an American Airlines, but for these our smaller budget airlines, what do you think of that business model? Is that the way to go? They that run shorter routes and are more nimble and more flexible. Do you think?
I'd have to look at the financials. I know it is when I was in the private equity business, I know it is something we looked at. We were looking at Embraer jets, as you said, smaller, so you can run the capacity. Definitely want to explore for airlines on the continent, because we're looking at regional routes and domestic routes.
Yes.
And right now, some of the prices are crazy. So we talk about limited connectivity, aviation connectivity across the continent. But it's not affordable. So we do have to look at different models, ways to be able to run at a more cost-effective and therefore more price sensitive manner.
Gotcha. Still on this is still kind of aviation, but not Pfizer, I believe. They're getting drone deliveries to remote areas of rural areas to deliver vaccines. Mm-hmm. I asked this question earlier about money, digital money. Are drones, when you think about maritime security, border security, logistics, drones, are they the answer? Or are they the future? What do you think?
They're today.
Yeah,
again,
today.
like with money, they're today. We're seeing it happen.
Yeah.
You know, you only have to go to a big event, and we've got drones taking videos, etc., etc. And because we have the technology, the question is, what are the different ways we can use this technology? And we're going to find that drones will be put to more and more and more uses.
Excellent stuff. Sanyade Okoli, good to see you again. CEO, Alpha African Advisory. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you coming on the show.